against all odds and doom and gloom scenarios, Ukraine didn't fall. Ukraine is alive and kicking.
That is President Volodymyr Zelensky of Ukraine, who made a sort of surprise visit to meet with President Biden and then made this address to Congress. And I wanted to play that clip especially because it should serve as a reminder that while I think a lot of people are used to the new status quo of the conflict, that it is that it's brutal and prolonged and seems to have entered into a devastating stalemate with a lot of attrition, especially amongst civilians. He's reminding us there that many people, myself included, assumed that conflict would be over in 72 hours, maybe a week. That's what we thought. And that isn't actually how it went. And there's a lot of things that I think that should be credited for that. Obviously, the resilience of Ukraine's defenders, Zelensky himself as their leader, and the support that they've received from countries around the world, including from the United States. But yeah, it could have been over very soon. And so the trip was to both thank the US for its support, but also far more significantly to ask for more of that support. And by the way, Congress is approving basically, I think, $48 billion in additional aid, including, as I spoke about with Anna Kasparian on the Young Turks yesterday, for the first time ever, the Patriot missile defense system. But there are other weapons that Zelensky had requested, long-range missiles, things like that could strike inside of Russia that Joe Biden has not approved, that they will not be funding. I want to give you just a little bit more of what Zelensky said during the press conference he held with President Biden. Take a look at this.
I wish you peace. I think that is the main thing, and you understand it only when the war in your country, when somebody like these terrorists from Russia come to your houses. And I wish you to see your children alive and adults.
And he goes on in that vein, obviously. And I played that clip to remind you that while obviously there's a lot of money on the line, and I'm sure there are people on both sides of whether we should support Ukraine in this particular way that don't fundamentally give a damn about the loss of life that's on the line. Some want the money because they like the businesses it's going to. Some are opposed to it because they seem to despise Ukraine for some reason that I'll never understand. The human cost is the cost that's most important to me, and it has already been absolutely devastating. That continues. We're entering into a winter that was going to be difficult anyway. Russia has spent months now trying to destroy the energy infrastructure to ensure that as many Ukrainian civilians as possible die simply from the harsh winter. So we have more quotes from him we're going to talk about, including the right-wing reaction. But Brett, what do you make of what we've shown?
I mean, you're going to get into it later, but essentially the move of a lot of people who are in search of power, namely politicians and political operatives, as well as television news personalities, they try so hard to get you to forget the main thing about any given issue. And the main thing about the war in Ukraine is that Russia invaded another country and just tried to kill everybody.
Yep.
And it's speeches like this that you'll watch everybody try so hard to get you to overlook the main thing about it. The 98% of the conversation about it. That's how much it should take up. Is at the thing, and the reason they want you to ignore it is because it's the thing that most people in their right minds would understand is the main thing about it. And that's that Russia invaded Ukraine and has tried to kill pretty much everybody in it. And so in these speeches, they'll try to distract you in a bunch of different ways. But this reminds you, no, this guy is running a country that was invaded by Vladimir Putin's Russia. Don't forget it.
Yeah, I am glad that you focused on that. It's 100% true. I would add the corollary to that most important point that they invaded and tried to occupy and wipe out and kill everyone there is that they could leave anytime they want. Yeah. They could go today. That would be the best case scenario, but tomorrow is also an option that's almost as good. They could go literally anytime they want and would only benefit from that. Maybe Vladimir Putin in terms of like ephemeral stuff, reputation, like stuff like that. He individually might be hurt by that. I'm at a loss for what the Russian civilians would lose by simply getting the hell out of there. You would stop losing so many incredibly expensive vehicles, the loss of lives of, and by the way, Russian soldiers. But when I talk about civilian loss of life, I include the vast majority of the Russian soldiers at this point too, because I guess they've been soldiers for a week or two. I guess they were sort of trained for a day. They're bakers and they're like they're regular people too, needlessly dying. The war could end at any point. By the way, and Zelensky focused on that, saying Russia could stop its aggression, but you can speed up our victory. Yeah, they could literally just leave. And I feel like a lot of people, especially on the right, pretend that that's not the case. And look, Zelensky also talks about that this is about saving Ukraine, but it's about standing up for democracy and things like that. And I agree with that too. I think the precedent cannot be set that a country can simply invade and occupy another country. I felt like that for decades when it came to our invasions of Afghanistan and Iraq. I feel kind of the need to be consistent in standing against it when it's Russia invading Ukraine. Anyway, not everyone agrees with that, as will become very clear. But anyway, I did like the comments from Zelensky, although not everyone agreed.
For more political news, breakdowns, interviews, stories of activism, and me trying my hardest to care about the occasional big celebrity news story, subscribe to our YouTube channel at youtube.com/The Damage Report. And you can ring the bell wherever it is so you don't miss anything.